So my name is Rob Barton. I'm a captain on the Charlton Fire Department. I've been there, thank you. I've been there for about 6 years now, and I also sit on this Public Safety Building Committee. How many of you have heard that there's a project that we've been working on to try to build a new public safety building facility, build a new fire station, police station? All right, so we got about half of you. Did you guys know that this fire station study, which is originally what the committee was, has been going on for about 24 years now? We've been trying to get a new fire station.
Yes.
So, long time, right?
Yeah.
So, the committee got reestablished just over 2 years ago. We meet regularly. It got changed from a fire station building committee to a public safety building committee. And I know I've heard some people say, why is that? Like, why are we doing that? The police department, how old's the police department? Anybody know?
Old.
30 years old. The current police station is 30 years old. Now, in the realm of a building, that's not really that old, right? Because when we design buildings, fire stations, police stations, this new public safety building, it's designed for 50 years is really what we're hoping to get out of a building, right? We don't get hundreds and hundreds of years like you do out of a house, but we're really hoping to get 50 years. So 30 years is a little short of a lifespan. But think about the technology change that has occurred from 30 years ago when the building was built. Computers were minimal at that point. 911 really wasn't existent. Cell phones didn't even happen. So back then, the dispatcher, anybody know what she used to record everything? I said this to my son. I was showing my son. I have twin boys. They're 15 years old. I was showing them the presentation, and they said, "What's a typewriter?" I said, "Oh, that's how." They're like, "You mean like a keyboard?" No, it's a typewriter. Like you load the paper in, and I thought I was speaking a foreign language. When I took typing class in high school, that's what I learned on a typewriter. And I'm not that old, so technology has changed significantly. And the police department, unfortunately, when it was built, it really wasn't built more for this future growth. How many of you remember back in the day ever having to go to the police station? It was minimal times that you had to go to the police station because the only time you went there was for your initial license to carry or something, or maybe to file a complaint. Well, now people go to the police station all the time, and you're going to see why there's a problem with their current police station. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fire station. Anybody remember this fire station? That was the fire station. That was the first fire station, Burt Gale Station. First truck was placed inside that station in 1924. Second truck was added in 1941. That's where he was on the department, and he stored 2 of our fire trucks there. We didn't have a fire station. Before then, they had these big soda ash carts all around town, and when there was a fire, people ran and got the carts and pulled the carts to the fire and essentially put out the grass that was burning at that point. Much different than what we're doing now. It operated until the flood of 1955. Now, I wasn't born in 1955, and I don't think neither of you are. You guys look way younger than that. However, the flood of 1955 wiped this out. This is our original fire station, or our real first fire.
Yes, I remember that one.
Quick question. Why is that building still there?
Yeah, what are you going to do with
that? That is a great question. That is not us. I don't know who owns it. It's for sale if anybody wants it. I think it's going for like $3, $4. I don't know what they're selling it for, but it is for sale. I don't know who owns it. It has nothing to do with the fire department. So Burt Gale, this actually wasn't even truly a fire station. Burt Gale it was a gas station, and he let us store a couple of our fire trucks in there. When we got our first fire truck, he let us store it in there, and then when we got a second one, he's like, yeah, sure, you guys can store it in there. But in 1955, it got wiped out by the flood. So we had to build a fire station. So in 1958, the town built this fire station. Originally a 3-bay station, no second floor. There was no full-time firefighters back then, so they only really needed a place to store the 2 fire trucks that were in here, and they got an extra bay. So that's really all they did it for. 2-bay addition was added in 1968 to give them 5 bays. Fires were starting to ramp up a little bit. They had an increased amount of brush fires, so they added 2 more bays. They made it into a 5-bay station back in 1968. In 1986, the growth of the fire department was continuing, and we needed a second floor. We needed some office spaces. Anybody ever go into this fire station when it was first built? All right, I never did. So the main lobby was an office, which is now our entryway. It was just an office. And then there was a small kitchen area or something. So now they added this because they had more offices, fire chief, administrative assistant in order to process some of our paperwork and stuff. So they added a second floor, more firefighters, and then there was actually the start of 20 full-time firefighters back then. Unfortunately, back in 2009, we had a large ice dam that caused extensive damage, so the second floor created a mold hazard, ended up redoing the second floor. If you've been to the fire station up on the second floor, everybody says, what? Looks great. This looks incredible. Well, yeah, because it was only done 10 years ago when they redid the whole second floor because of the mold damage. So at our headquarters, how many, you guys may not know this, but we are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now. We have 5 firefighters on shift at one time during the day. If everybody's working, that's assigned to that group. Plus we have the chief, the deputy chief, and we have a full-time fire inspector. So out of headquarters, which is the only staff station, we run 2 pumpers, engine 2 and engine 3, 2 ambulances, ambulance 3 and ambulance 1, the small forestry truck, and then we also have a squad, which is that old, the older red Ford Expedition, the old chief's vehicle. We use that as a chase vehicle. Sometimes if you've seen us going through town, we have an ambulance and then we have that little car coming behind it. That's to get a third person on scene of medicals to give us a hand to move the equipment inside the house to take care of patients and move the equipment out of the house. So that's why that vehicle is going. There's 2 cars usually going to a call. Did you guys know that this land here isn't part of the town of Charlton? It's leased land. We lease it from this building right here, this 3-decker that's right behind us. We lease a piece of land in order to have spaces for our firefighters to park. So anything that's dirt isn't ours. It's not the town of Charlton. We make a yearly payment to the owner of that building in order to use his land. If you've never come by here when there's actual an emergency or there's a large training and stuff, it's pretty creative where we can park vehicles and how we can park vehicles. Soon we're going to just start stacking them on top of each other. So here's some of the issues that we have at headquarters. There's just very little inadequate space in order for the firefighters. This isn't a firefighter, that's me right there. If I had to put my gear on, we can't open up the door. The hose is in the way. These hoses are for the diesel exhaust to help limit the amount of carcinogen exposure for the firefighters. So there's not a lot of space for us to put our gear on. It's very tight quarters. We're actually full. Our apparatus can't get any bigger. We're trying to get it to shrink a little bit, but the apparatus people don't like that idea. So there's very little walking space. This is our engine, and just imagine this firefighter trying to put his gear on, but if I'm the first firefighter, if this is my gear and I'm putting my gear on, and you, sir, are the 3rd firefighter, how do you get around me? We end up getting a little dance going on, we do the tango a little bit, you know, to get people around us. So some difficulties. Washer dryer, right? You guys all have those? Not a big deal, right? Well, our washer dryers aren't to wash our uniforms and our shirts and our pants and our clothes. Our washer dryers are actually, we have them there in order to wash our turnout gear. I'm sure you've heard on the news and stuff, the latest research that shows that all the cancer-causing agents that are giving firefighters a high rate of cancer is being caused because of the gear. The gear that we use at a fire, we come back, it's contaminated. Well, all that stuff stays on our gear until we wash it. So we send it through this regular household washing machine. That's all this is. They don't want us to do this. The industry standard is not to do this. The industry standard is for us to have a special washing machine. Just go, you can go ahead. Have a special washing machine for our turnout gear. We can't get that washing machine. We have no space for that washing machine. We have no place to put it. So area towns have offered their fire station for us to use their special machine. So we take all of our gear sometimes, we put it in a vehicle, we drive down to those other fire stations, and then we sit there and wait until the laundry is done. So let's talk about Station 2. This is what we call Station 2. Everybody know where this is? Yep. Looks a little different, right? Originally built in 1929 as a highway barn. Fire department started taking it over in 1970. The fire chief at the time was fortunate enough to obtain a surplus military vehicle from the federal government at a very little cost to the town. It was great for brush fires. It was a tanker truck, but we had no place to put it. So we graciously asked the highway guys if they would let us use one bay. They said, sure, we'll let you use one bay. Well, that eventually grew and grew and grew, and eventually we ended up taking over all 4 bays, and that's currently still in place now.
Where is that building?
So let me show you, it's that building.
Oh, there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just has a new coat of paint on
I know
it.
where that is.
You know, it's the same building, yep. We added a little big, you know, they probably put an addition on. Originally it was a 3 bay, and then they added a 4th bay. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So after the highway got their new building in 2008, they tore down their Quonset hut. They tore down the Quonset hut in the back. They had contaminated soil. The building was falling down. But unfortunately, it had all the plumbing inside. And when the firefighters were at that station, because they were training or they were cleaning the equipment or whatever they were doing, they would use the highway guy's side of the building to use the bathroom and to wash their hands and stuff. Well, when they tore that building down, they took away the plumbing. And because there's a town bylaw that says that all town buildings must have a toilet, they got a toilet for us. They got us a porta potty. In the wintertime, it's a little bit interesting. You got to pick away at the ice first. So there's a Facebook page, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I posted this picture, and we talked about the difficulties up at that station. And someone said, "Yeah, but that's not a staff station." And I want to be completely clear: it's not. There's no place for a staff station up there. There's 4 garage bays, and there's 5 vehicles that are stored inside that building. There's not a place to put anything. Your food has arrived. There's not a place to put anything. So in this building, all of these numbers, these used to be our fire trucks designation. That was Forestry 1, that was Tanker 6, that was Engine 5, and that was Engine 2. Well, those don't exist anymore. We just haven't repainted the building. We're afraid if we paint it, the extra weight of the paint on the doors may cause a problem. So we don't put any paint on it. So we have Engine 1, our tanker truck, another ambulance is up there, our Rescue 1, our Heavy Rescue, and our Marine 1. Anybody live on the water?
Sorry.
Anybody live on the water or near the water? Any bodies of water in town? Okay. There's an emergency on the water. We want to get our boat to that lake, that body of water, right? We have to take this truck and pull it out. We have to take this truck and we have to pull it out. Because the boat is parked sideways. And then we have to swing the boat out by hand to get it out, to hook it up to a truck to tow it. So give us about 20 minutes and we'll be there. We'll be there in about 20 minutes. It takes a little bit of time. You can see there's a lot of structural damage to the roof. There's sagging. The department actually has a provision in place. We have a plan in place for when this building comes down, if we can get the apparatus out, to store the apparatus somewhere else off-site. Because that's where we think we're actually going. We think that this building is going to come down. So there's these response trailers in the back. I'm sure you may have seen those and like, what are those? Why do they have all these trailers back there? Well, they're special response trailers. One of them is the Tri-Epic Committee's trailer. One of them is the Department of Public Health. Those are all in case of a major disaster or an emergency. So one's a shelter trailer. If there's just some, we have a blizzard that comes through and we lose power throughout the whole town, and we have to provide some additional response. We may get tornadoes. Every now and then we get one of those tornado things that come through. So these are just special response trailers. We have a new hazmat response trailer that the department is responsible for. I don't know, probably about 15 years ago, there was a truck on Route 20 that was a tanker truck that rolled over and it lost all its oil. And it contaminated a large area, and we didn't have the means to get a large amount of speedy dry and stuff to the scene. So we have a special trailer now that's loaded with equipment that we can respond to the area to start mitigating it. We have an emergency management trailer, and then we have our technical rescue trailer. Myself, Captain Ouellette in the back, we belong to along with several other members, we belong to a technical rescue team that covers all of southern Worcester County. So that trailer is just loaded with ropes and all kinds of equipment to do specialized rescues of individuals. So that's what those trailers are for. In the wintertime, it's interesting because of the snow. We have to go up there, we have to shovel out in front of the trailer in order to back up and hook the trailer up. There's just a large delayed response. All right, this is our station 3. It's in quotation mark because it's not really a fire station. Everybody know where this is?
Yeah.
Charlton City, right. Right next to the post office. Did you guys know that it was on leased land? It's not our land. We pay a yearly fee to the neighbor in order for us to have that building on there. We got this building built by the prisoners from a community project from the Worcester County House of Corrections because we were getting a ladder truck. The town of Charlton, the fire department felt that it was important for the residents to have an aerial device so that way we can perform response to chimney fires and structure fires without having to wait for a mutual aid ladder to come from another town. So we were able to acquire a ladder truck at very minimal cost back then, but we didn't have a building to put it in. So they got this Quonset hut, they built it. The old scope fit inside. That was the old yellow-looking truck. And then through the graciousness of the two gentlemen in the back, they wrote a grant. And Chief Knopf, at the time, he was a captain, wrote a grant for a new ladder truck. So that way we can get a state-of-the-art ladder truck for our town. They got the ladder truck. They both, Captain and Let sat on the committee, and they had to design it specifically for this building. And I believe at one point, when they told the manufacturer how long the truck had to be, I believe at one point he said, "Are you kidding me? It's not long enough." But they were able to do it. They were able to fit it in. It's spray and foam insulation on the back, on the all inside of the building. We had to scrape the foam insulation off the back wall in order to fit the truck in just barely enough. You can't walk in front of the truck when the door's closed. That's how tight it is. So when there's a fire, like there was on Freeman Road the other night, if you read about it, if you heard about it, when there's a fire, firefighters pull into headquarters, they go inside, they get their gear on, and then they got to run across the street to get to this truck to respond. There's just another delay. So our original full-time staffing was only 3 full-time firefighters. They only worked during the daytime. I think the first fire chief, I guess 99. I don't remember the first
Yes,
one.
99.
99. Here's our current staffing if you don't know. We have 21 full-time firefighter EMTs, 11 paramedics, 4 of them are in training still, full-time fire chief, a full-time deputy chief, a full-time administrative assistant. We have 8 call firefighters and a couple of our call firefighter EMTs. So our department has grown substantially. 20 firefighters broken down. We have a captain and 4 firefighters assigned to each group. So that way we can respond with the adequate personnel fairly quickly. We can get to your house in a quick amount of time. 43 square miles this town is. Large town. Even with full-time firefighters in the building. Captain Lett was working last night. He had to go down to McKinstry. Anybody want to take a stab at where McKinstry is? Gale Road. 15 minutes. They were in the building. The call went out for a reported fire alarm activation, which could be nobody's home, ADT gets their alarm tripped because there's a fire, they call it in. It takes us 15 minutes to get to that area of town. So even with full-time firefighters there's just a delayed response. Nothing that we can do about it. How many calls do we do? What do you guys think? 100 calls? 200 calls? In 2014, we did 1,798 calls, 1,798 calls. Last year, we did 2,644 calls.
From where?
From where?
From where, yeah, that's almost our population.
No, our population is 14,000.
Yeah.
So we do just a lot of calls between the Masonic home, 10 North Main Street, the Urgent Care Center, 9 Trolley Crossing, and just really everywhere in town. We go all over the place now.
You have the mass pipe.
Is the pipe a lot of it?
You know what? People think it is. People think that the Mass Pike or the 5E and the 6W rest area are. I'll be honest with you, we may go up to the Pike once every 2 weeks for an incident. It's not, we're not going up there 3-4 times a day like the thought is. It's not really a huge component of it. But think about how many more cars are on the road now. Think about the age of the population. Don't take that the wrong way. The age of the population in town. There's just got to be more calls that are happening. Our projected growth for this year, considering that we keep raising it by 8%, we should be around 2,800 calls. So the Worcester Fire Department in Worcester County, Worcester Fire Department's the biggest, and then if we go south from there, the busiest, Auburn, Southbridge, and then it's us. We're the 4th busiest department in southern Worcester County. Here's another staggering number. We relied on mutual aid 101 times. 100 times back in 2016, mutual aid had to come in to do a call for us because we weren't able to staff it based on our staffing level. With the help of a grant that was written by Chief Knopf, we were able to reduce that last year down to 13. And then we start providing some additional assistance to all of the other bordering communities to kind of give a little payback for all the times that we relied on them. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the committee. Multiple attempts. About 25 years ago it started. Tremendous amount of money and time has already been invested in it. The current committee's been meeting for over 2 years. We've looked at several available sites. We're trying to find the best site to meet our needs, and the committee felt that we needed to be on top of a hill. Is that a problem here in Charlton?
No.
Plenty of hills to pick from, right? We needed to be on top of a hill, so that way we didn't always have to climb hills. Right now our trucks take a beating having to climb Charlton Hill or Masonic Home Hill all the time to go to the majority of our calls. Overlook offered us a piece of land, and that's what we purchased last May. Last May's town meeting, we purchased a piece of land, 19.3 acres of land. Anybody want to take a stab at what that costs? $179,000. That's it. We got a $100,000 donation, so thank you very much. I appreciate that donation. It was an anonymous donation. We don't know who gave it, but they gave us $100,000 to buy the land. So it only cost you taxpayers $79,000 to buy that land. We hired an owner's project manager, we hired an architect, and we started looking at the best possible location on that site for a building. We started a preliminary space needs analysis. The focus originally was a fire station, and it got shifted to a public safety complex fairly early on because we knew that there was some difficulties. We didn't want to take the taxpayers' money, build a fire station, and then a short period of time later, probably a couple years after we moved into our fire station, for us to come back to you and go, hey, oh, and by the way, we need to build a police station now too. So can we start working on that?
Does this new design, this new public safety building, do you do your own maintenance on the trucks so that there's a maintenance bay added to this building?
So we don't do our own maintenance on the trucks like we need a maintenance bay. Our captain Ouellette that's in the back, he's actually our captain in charge of vehicle apparatus maintenance. So he'll perform some minor stuff on the trucks, but the majority of our bigger requirements to get repaired do either go down to O'Malley's on Route 20, or it goes out to the manufacturer of some of our engine 3 and our tower, by Bulldog Fire Apparatus out in Hopkinton. So sometimes we have to go down there. So we do perform as much maintenance as we can, light bulb change, stuff like that. He fixes a ton of stuff to try to not have to always send it out to a garage to get repaired. But there's some things like oil changes and greasing and stuff like that that it has to go down there, the preventative maintenance stuff. But that's a good question. Economically, it makes sense. Current police station is almost 30 years old, built at a much time that's different with technology and staffing. Here's our current police station. Dispatch center was opened in 1991. This is their dispatch room. If you remember, or if you've ever been to the police station, this is the window, but it looks a little bit different. I'll show you a current picture. This is what the room had in it when it opened up. A phone, a typewriter, a radio, and one computer. Significantly different than what they currently have now. It did not have a fax machine, which was fairly common technology back then, but they didn't have one yet. 911 really didn't happen. You had to call a number. How many of you remember only having to dial 4 digits?
Yeah.
That's how old I am. I remember when I was a kid learning to use the phone, I had to call 4 digits.
I wish it was still that way.
And then when they switched it, you had to do 5 digits. Everybody was like, what? I gotta do 5 digits? Now you gotta do the whole 10. That's crazy. Now nobody even remembers phone numbers because why? They're all stored in our phones, right? I used to have a Rolodex in my head of phone numbers. I don't have that anymore. So when someone called the police station to report a crime or report a fire or something and the phone call got dropped, they actually had to call the operator to have the number traced. Technology is much different now. Back then they had 1 chief, 3 police sergeants, and 8 patrol officers. So they had a staffing of 12 people back then with a couple of dispatchers. Today, they have a chief, a lieutenant, 4 patrol sergeants, a detective sergeant, and 14 patrol officers. So their staffing has increased substantially as well in order to provide the services to the town that's needed. They also have 4 full-time dispatchers. They have a small complement of part-time officers and 16 to 20 auxiliary police officers. We're going to try to get you to the current building that we're looking at now. They have 2 dispatch stations. This is what you currently look at now. That's the window that you come to if you need to see a police officer. So they have 2 dispatchers now, or 2 dispatch stations. They're only staffing 1 at a time. The other one's there in case we have a big fire. An off-duty dispatcher comes in and helps out. So the cell rooms lack adequate facilities. This toilet's not supposed to be in the middle of the room. It's broken, so they had to move it away from the wall. How's the lockers, right? The dispatchers, top lockers are for the dispatchers, bottom lockers are for the prisoners. Doesn't really make a lot of sense there. Lobby area. So, this is sort of the most important thing about this police station, the reason why it's not currently working. Imagine bringing your granddaughter to the police station to see a police officer, which we encourage them to do, meet the police officer, maybe get a badge or something, and they're sitting in these chairs in the waiting room. You know, the dispatcher says, just give me a minute, I'll have an officer come in, you can talk to your granddaughter. And in this seat 2 over is a violent sex offender waiting to register with the police department, which didn't happen in 1991 when this first started. They didn't have that law, that didn't exist. Individuals applying for a restraining order sitting in that lobby. There's no privacy associated with it. You have your conversation with your dispatcher. Anybody else that's sitting in the lobby is going to hear your whole business. Children with divorced parents, they do weekend exchanges at the police station. As they're doing that weekend exchange and the kids are in the lobby doing the exchange, just as they do that, someone is walking out of the cell room that just got released. They just got bailed for God knows what crime. And they're going to walk right by those kids. And then they also have the needle exchange where you can dispose of needles and medications. Prisoner processing area is a little bit difficult. Here's our current committee. And we're just going to switch to the other PowerPoint, and then this one is our new building. Any questions with our current system?
One behind you, Robert.
Hi, sir.
Just a question about the planning. Are you planning on having a common dispatcher between the 2?
Yes. So it's going to happen the same way as it currently does now. Hold on, I'm not a Apple guy. God bless people who are Apple people.
Oh boy.
He's got it.
Any idea where my...
No name right there?
This one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. So currently, right now, the police department does do dispatch for both police and fire. So in the new building, that's going to exist as well. So in the new building, it will exist. They'll have the same 1 dispatcher for both buildings. We designed the dispatch center to be a little bit larger, so that way, again, for future growth, so that we may be able to put a second dispatcher in there as time goes. So here's our current building. This is where it's going to sit. Take that in, try to figure it out where it is. This is the current police station right here. This is that little dirt area that's got a stone wall that the buses park at. Old Home Day.
Where is the police station now?
Right here is the police station now.
Oh, right there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So this is where the stage is set up for the Old Home Day concert. They put that trailer there. The band sits up there. They play their music. It would literally be right in front of here. We're going to have great seats. We're going to have great seats. So this is where it's proposed to go. We tried changing it a little bit. So we may be able to zoom in a little bit. So this is the current floor plan, the way it works. This is our apparatus bay area. much larger. All 3 stations will be able to fit in one station. Some people say, well, what are you going to do with that station down here on Main Street? We're going to wait for a nice big windstorm. It's not even going to be a big windstorm. It's going to be a small windstorm. And it should fall down, and they're going to make it into a parking lot. Well, what are we going to do with that Quonset hut down by headquarters in Charlton City? It's part of the lease agreement. It goes back to the landowner, and they get the building back, or they get the land back. So all 3 fire stations will be able to combine in one, and we'll be able to put all of our equipment in one station. This room here is actually going to have that specialized washing machine that I talked to you about. We're actually going to be able to properly decon our gear immediately after coming back from a fire to get it washed. So that way the firefighters aren't going to be exposed to all the cancer stuff every single day. Has a training tower built into it, so we can perform our training. We do a lot of training now, either at the stations or we go off-site. Luckily, a lot of our businesses allow us to use their buildings, so we do a lot of our trainings there. We're going to build our own training tower so we can do majority of our training right here at the fire station. So this is the firefighters area here, or the fire admin area we call it. It's got some the locker room, this is the bathrooms. This is the chief's office, the deputy chief's office, the fire inspector is there. Small conference room. And this is Terry, our current administrative assistant, that's her office. This is where the public will come to actually take care of any of your burning permits. You need an inspection because you're selling a house or something. You'll come in and you'll actually go right to the fire side area of the building. You don't have to go to the police side and then wait to get to us. You can just go right to the fire side. So this big area, this is the lobby. This is the police side. These are their cell rooms. They have their evidence room. They have 2 sally ports, or what they call sally ports is how they drive their cruisers in. But they have a prisoner, and they offload their prisoner in a secured building. So they can close the front door and the back door, they can open up the car door, and they can take the prisoner out. So that way there's no chance of that prisoner actually escaping. They get processed fairly quickly and they can go right into the cell rooms. So then the best thing about this, like we talked about with the deficiencies in the police side, is that when a person gets bailed, they can get let out that back door. They can get let out the back door into the parking lot and they can get picked up by whoever's picking them up. No more going through the lobby and having to sit with the little kids waiting to see a police officer or a firefighter. Police chief's office, deputy lieutenant's office, a couple interview rooms are downstairs. Just a bunch of offices. This is our training area. This is the 2nd floor. These are our bunk rooms for the firefighters, and we've built into our station a little bit of growth. We had to take out part of our classroom that we use now in order to build a bunk room, because we didn't have enough spaces for another firefighter. So we had to cut our current training room down a little bit. So we've planned for this so that way we're not coming back. Remember that 50-year growth that I talked to you guys about? We don't want to come back in a shorter period of time and ask for money to redo this station. If we need a new station because of this expansive growth that we have, it'll be on another part of town somewhere else. It'll be what they call a substation. So this is the EOC, or the community room. This room is going to be open up to anybody in the community to use. It's a 40-person meeting room. There's a lot of space needs in this town as far as people wanting to have meetings and stuff. Planning department wants to have a meeting. Board of Selectmen room gets overcrowded with people. This will be able to hold 40 people. We'll open up to the public. Any organization. Boy Scouts want to use it. The Girl Scouts want to use it. The veterans, the Grange Hall, they want to go here and meet here instead. Whatever. So we built that in because it's part of your building as well. We just work there. It's your building. So this is the police other side of the building. Like I said, the chief's office and their kitchen areas in the back here. Their fitness room. The fire side has a fitness room. The firefighters are allowed to go in there and work, and the police officers are allowed to go in and do a quick little workout while they're on duty to try to stay physically fit to do the job. So then they had to come up with these designs. They wanted to try to figure out the outer covering of the building and how it's going to look, because it's aesthetically is the most important thing, right? Functionally inside, that's what we care about. Aesthetically is actually what the public cares about, what it's going to look like. So these are all a bunch of different buildings they use. You guys may recognize that building there, or that building. Those are the Overlook buildings. different cladding, different outside. We're gonna go right through. So here's some of the early sketches of what the building, what they thought it was gonna look like. These are the 6 bays. So this entrance here is this, if you were coming up Masonic home from Route 20, this is what you're actually gonna see. This is the main entrance right here. Somebody actually said it looks like a farmhouse with 2 barns attached to it. We asked the architect that, and he says, you're right, but that's not what it was intended to do, but it did it anyway. So they're trying to keep the whole Charlton feel of the community into this building. We don't want it to stand out in this really gaudy looking building. So they came up with some things. So here's some of these other renderings of it. This is sort of a side view. So if you're standing on Masonic Home Road and you're looking at the side of the building, they were looking at different color combinations and stuff. That's not where we're at right now. They were just giving us ideas. But here's what the building is proposed to look like. We're trying to focus on the look of the building so that way it doesn't stand out. It's in a village district. It's a new district that just got established from the center of town all the way down to L. Stevens, to Dresser Hill Road, down Masonic Home Road, just beyond this fire station area is the village district. So they're trying to build up the village district. We're hoping that this building is sort of the start of it, of extending the town out. They're looking at doing some stone on the bottom to kind of match like the stone that's over at the Overlook across the street, or the stone wall that's in front of the building. So they're trying to use some stone on the bottom of the building. This is a different view of the building. Masonic Home Road is up there. And we
Are all
have...
the electrical utilities underground?
No, they're still overhead.
Overhead right there.
Yeah.
What are you doing with the old police station?
That is a incredible question.
Senior center.
New senior center.
We need a new senior center.
So we'll set these up and you guys can take a look around and walk in and look at the board. So that's the big question, right? I already told you what we're going to do with the fire station. Our Quonset hut is going to get turned over to the landowner. Our old station is going to get torn down. They're going to make it into a municipal parking lot. And then the headquarters station, they're going to sell off. They're going to sell the headquarters off and whatever they want to do with it. There's zoning regulations and stuff like that.
I got a
What is the
question.
procedure to get this accepted?
All right.
What?
I'm almost at that. You're about 5 minutes ahead of me. 5 minutes and I'm almost there.
Sorry.
So that's what we're going to do with the current stations. The current police station, there's a lot of discussions about that. What are we going to do? It's not really for us, our committee, to decide what to do with the current police station. There's a lot of ideas that have been floated out there. One of them was the senior center. One of them was potentially making that into a new senior center. Another idea was to take some of the other offices that are inside the town hall and move them over to there. Conservation Department, the Board of Health Department, any department that does work outside of the town hall, not like the tax collector or the town clerk or even all those other offices, and move them there, which would free up space inside this building. I don't unfortunately have that answer as far as what they're going to do with the current police station. We and our committee have not been tasked with having to figure that out or to come up with that idea. But these are some of the ideas that have been discussed by Rob and Craver as far as what the potential uses of that current police station would be. So, to your question, the next thing would be the May 20th town meeting vote. There'll be an article on this year's warrant for a dollar amount. I don't have the exact dollar amount. I wish I could. It's going to be a little bit more than $5 or $10. For a dollar amount to build the fire station, to build the public safety complex. So that's the next step in this whole process. We've done the space, we're doing all of the studies right now, the traffic study, the engineering study, we've done the space needs analysis, we've done the conceptual design. We should by then, or we will definitely by then, have the plan, the final plan. This is what it is, and this is how much money we're looking for in order to do this. So now, before anybody asks, what's this going to cost my taxes? Everybody's nodding their head, right? Nobody hurt your neck.
Does the state kick in money like they do for schools for public safety buildings?
Good question, and I'll answer your question before I talk about the taxes. No, they don't. They don't kick in money for public safety complexes. They don't have those grants available. We've reached out to our Representative Peter Durant and Senator Goby to see if there was any grants out there for other stuff. You know, maybe a gear washing machine, so that way we don't have to buy it. It can get brought in a grant. The chief is working on getting that acquired now. The Emergency Management Office, MEMA, has sometimes grants available for disaster preparedness, so that EOC community room, we may be able to get a grant for some equipment to put in that room, but there's not a lot of money, or there's no money available to build the building. We've reached out to the FEMA department or the federal government to see if there's any federal money available to build. And as of right now, there's nothing coming back. We do have a person that has a contact in the FEMA office that releases the grants, and we're waiting to see if something happens. Usually if there's a grant that comes out for a fire station, it's because of a major disaster. Like when Hurricane Sandy came up and destroyed a bunch of fire stations in New York and New Jersey, some of those fire departments got grants to rebuild their station because of a federal disaster, or down in Hurricane Katrina and stuff like that. So that's usually how that happens. So, all of our phones are going off. It's just a...
You gotta run.
No, just a test. So, how much money is my taxes going to go up? How much more am I going to have to pay in order to do this? And I don't know that answer. And I only say I don't know that answer is because Donna Foglio is working on that number. It's a debt exclusion is what they're going for. There are some things that you currently pay in your taxes on a debt exclusion, and those are getting rolled off. Those are getting paid off. The highway department, the library, the Bay Path renovation, those were all debt exclusions. They're getting rolled off. And we're hoping to time it so that way as those roll off, ours roll on, and you won't see a major change. Don't hold me to it. Don't throw anything at me at town meeting when we talk about this. I will have more information. We're going to have more of these meetings. I will get that number. Donna Foglio's been away for 2 weeks. She's been on vacation. She's actively working on that number. I'll be brutally honest with you guys. The number that we're looking at is about $27 million. However, again, Donna Foglio feels that that number, at least 90% of it, the largest percentage of it, will not have to be involved in raised taxes. It'll be part of what you currently pay now, what your current tax rate is now. How many people think that their taxes almost doubled this past quarter, right? So your taxes didn't double. I can give you a little insight because we've been catching a little bit of feedback to us as far as my taxes can't go up anymore. They already got doubled. Your taxes were set back in May for July 1. May's town meeting set the taxes for July 1. So your first tax bill in July, you paid whatever that estimated amount was. And then in October, you paid the next amount, just before the state released the cherry sheet, which is what brought us to the October town meeting. And then the Prop 2.5 override went through for the school department, which we all, if you voted yes, you voted yes. If you voted no, we're not going to get into that debate. But the Prop 2.5 passed. So when they factored out the new dollar amount, what's your name, sir?
Jim.
Jim. When they factored out Jim's new dollar amount, they said that Jim paid his first two bills, but they're not enough compared to what the Prop 2.5 caused. So Jim had to pay his current last two bills, and he had to make up the difference for the first two. So that's why it looks really large on your last two payments. If nothing happened, if there was nothing increased at any time until July 1, when your next tax bill comes out, it will be significantly less than what you're paying now. You're making up for what you didn't pay in your first two payments. And that's only because of the Prop 2.5 got passed in October, so they had to make up for it. So your taxes didn't nearly double. It just looks like you did. You're just making up for your first two quarter payments. So I tracked down that information because there was a lot of people that were concerned about that.
I have one question on the new building. As far as storage of the apparatus, Are you gonna fill up all the new bays with what you have?
Great question. So right now we have 10 bays. We have 5 at headquarters, we have 4 at Station 2 down the street, and we have the tower building across the street, right? So we have 10 bays. The boat, remember, is parked sideways. So we kind of need to give that self a bay, right? So we'll call that 11 bays. We've designed for 12 in this building. So we have given ourselves 1 extra bay for a potential tanker truck. We talked to the chief about any potential vehicles that he sees the department needing, and a tanker truck was something that we thought we may need in the future. Our tanker truck now only carries 1,500 gallons of water. It's a small amount of water. We're looking to get either a 2,000 or a 2,500 gallon tanker truck at some point later on in the world, but we wanted to have a bay for it to go. So we did give ourselves a little bit of room. The other thing that this new building does is it gives us space to build a garage, if we need be, to store some space, to store a couple apparatus. We don't have that now. We have no space available anywhere. So we did put in a little bit of growth. Everybody says, did you plan for enough growth? The planning for enough growth is a fine line, right? I can only plan for so much growth unless you tell me that I have a blank checkbook and I can build anything I want. I don't really have that blank checkbook, so we can plan for a little bit of growth, but we have to be reasonable as well.
Just give me a comparison, like, how many, take Auburn for instance. How many storage bays does Auburn have for the town?
4, 8, 12. They have 4 double deep, so they have 4 that can come out of the front of their headquarters, 4 that can come out of the back of their headquarters, and then they have 4 at another station, their West Auburn station, so they have 12 there. Southborough, building their building right now. They're building, I think, at 10 bays. So we're just a little bit bigger than them. Price-wise, square footage-wise, we're right around the same as all of them. 37 to 39,000 square feet is going to encompass 3 fire stations and a police station with a new EOC community room.
Some of those trailers that you have parked behind the building, they could be outside, or they could have a...
So they're gonna have so we're looking to have an awning for them.
Awning.
So like a carport type thing, so they can park underneath the carport. We have 2 of our trailers that just got destroyed because of the ice this past winter. We didn't have a really awful winter, but we had enough of a bad winter where it destroyed 2 of our trailers and it created mold inside. So we're trying to get them out of the weather, but it would be unrealistic to include them in the building. It just would be too much in the building.
So I mean,
Yeah, so there's going to be some carports. Yeah, that's where our hope is for. Any other questions?
These bays, are they gonna be just 1 apparatus per bay, or are you gonna double?
No, we're doubling them up. I think we have one here. Maybe?
Right here.
Yes. So Ralph's got one. Ralph is the chairman on the committee. You may know Ralph is. So the bays, the trucks will park back to back. So that way we can go out, we can either go out the front of the building or we can go out the rear of the building. So the bays will be, the trucks will be parked back to back.
I got a question. Now, on where we're gonna have the building, you're coming out on 31. 31 sometimes.
No, you're gonna, yeah, well, yeah, I guess it is 31. It's Masonic.
Do you have another way going out of it?
So there's 2 entrances and exits. Well, there's 2 driveways. Well, there's 3 driveways technically. There's the police department driveway, which they're going to use for their cruisers, and they're going to use for the smaller vehicles, which is the one further on the right. If you can see on the right-hand side.
This is, yeah, the cruiser.
I'm going to have one here as well.
Yeah.
So this will be the police department entrance. The smaller vehicles will be able to come up here because this is a pretty good hill to get up on top.
Right.
So then you have this first entrance here, which will be the public driveway. Public will be able to pull in, come into this main parking lot, and walk into the lobby. And then the fire trucks will come out to this one, and then they'll be able to go left or right. They're going to make the mouth of it wide enough so that way we'll have a clear view. We have no trouble looking down Masonic Home because it is a clear shot down that way. The biggest problem may have to be to look up. It's something that they're working on right now. Currently, they're doing the traffic study, and the engineers will tell us how big that mouth opening has to be in order for us to get a line of sight to be able to come out onto Masonic Home.
You have the lights up there to stop the cars where you can get out?
There was a discussion about potentially having an emergency light that could get activated that would hold the cars towards the front, that first driveway, the police driveway, and we got to wait for the traffic engineers to tell us what they are recommending. I don't want to tell the traffic engineer what I think he should put in his plan. He's the engineer. Yes, sir.
Was there any discussion about trying to move that Quonset hut and reuse it for trailer storage or?
No, and I don't know if it's possible. It may be possible. I don't know what the lease agreement says on that piece of land. We would have to look into that. And if it's possible for us to move it, and if it's possible for either us or highway or somebody to use it, then yeah, we're definitely going to look at that option to get it to happen. I don't know if it can be moved, though. I don't know if a crane can pick it up and move it. Grab that.
A few years ago, we had an issue with taxation on that property where the owner was getting overtaxed in the agreement, and we did look at the possibility of relocating that building, and I don't think it was feasible to try to, structurally, you can't pick it up or take it down or.
Now, these leases, how long are they got 20-year lease? Or
I can't
yearly?
speak on that.
They're renewed every year.
They're renewed, okay, so when we're not using them and they're not always,
Right.
we get rid of that.
Yep.
So that'll be cost saving.
Yes.
Any other questions?
When would this be operational?
That's a great question. So, timeline, if May 20th it passes, which we're hoping it does, then it has to go to a ballot vote after that. It's a double process to get this building to happen. Town meeting vote, everybody hopefully says aye, or enough people say aye. It's got to be a 2/3 majority vote. If it passes, then it goes to the ballot box. You got to go to the Heritage School and you got to, write on the ballot, yes or no. And if it passes at the ballot box, it takes about 9 months to get a shovel in the ground, which we think should happen sometime around March or April of next year. And then it takes about 11 months after that, or a year after that, before we can move in. So we're talking March of 21 to May of 21. So we have some time, and that's actually, Donna likes that. It's actually going to help her as far as rolling that money around.
My question is about the design. I understand that we're gonna have a fire truck be able to go from the front of the building and the back of the building.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of scares me a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong in my thinking, but if I'm calling you for a fire, I would rather have you take that truck from the front than all the way in the back.
So, I see what your point is. So, we're going to have 3 bays here
Yeah.
and 3 bays here. 3 bays here and 3 bays here. When the chief and the deputy and the operations of the department, we figure out which bay is going to hold what apparatus. The fire engine is here, potentially, and there's a call and it drives right out. The other fire engine, right, we usually bring 2 or 3 fire engines to a call. It could be right behind it, and all it does is it goes out that way. So we're talking maybe a second's delay, 5 seconds delay, depending on where we put the trucks. One ambulance will be here, the other ambulance will be right behind it, and then it's just got to come around the back of the building. It's a pretty standard configuration of apparatus, because think about what the building would look like if we put 12 bays all this way.
Yeah.
It would look not only aesthetically, but it would be more costly to put 12 single deep bays instead of 6 double deep bays. All right, any other thoughts?
Yes.
When you started, you had said you had gone to a fire, Gold Road, McKinstry Road?
Freeman Road? Oh, McKinstry Road, they just went there, they had a fire alarm activation down
Okay.
there, yeah.
And it took you 15 minutes. Why put everything in one place? Why wouldn't you
Love that
have
idea.
two?
I love that idea. I'm gonna ask for you to stand next to me right at the town meeting floor. I'm gonna have you speak to that idea. So, you're right. Does it make sense to put all of our apparatus here? It makes sense today, because right now there's a delay, and we have to climb that big hill. So we're gonna shave a few minutes of our time off by putting it there. Brian's probably shaking his head back there, because we have beating...
The other fire departments are all in the
We have
same
been,
area.
right, we have been beating our heads. We would love the idea of shrinking our building a little bit and building a second building at the exact same time somewhere down by the Heritage School. If you guys want to make that motion, I'd be more than happy to entertain that, but it's going to be a more expensive option to do it that way, because you're talking 2 buildings. I think in the future, and when I say the future, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I'm sure you guys will all still be here. But in the future,
He won't be here.
it would be nice to get a substation building, which is pretty common. I used to work down in the Cape, down in Centerville, Osterville, which is part of Barnstable, and they had 3 fire stations. And that's the way they did it. They had a main headquarters and they had 2 little outlying stations. Those 2 outlying stations had 1 pumper, 1 ambulance, and a brush truck at each of those stations, because it didn't make sense to move everything from headquarters. But as far as financially speaking, this makes the most sense to the taxpayers. So let's get this building built, and then as growth happens, we can build a smaller building somewhere else. We can move some of this apparatus out into the other building, and then we can reuse the space that's here. But let this be sort of the focal, the anchor point of the emergency operations.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
On the other pictures, now how wide are the bays so that you guys can get your gear on and everything?
Yeah, they've accounted for all of that. It doesn't show it, right? We don't have that look of me standing next to the bays. But this company is Tecton Architects. They're out of Hartford, Connecticut. They design fire stations or public safety buildings a lot. They use another company called Dennis Ross Fire Architects, and they design them. There's a formula that they use. The bays are certain size in order for our fire apparatus currently and what the future growth of our apparatus is going to be. So the bays are a certain size. The distance between each of the fire truck is actually calculated as well. So all of that, all of the problems that we talked about in the fire station, we are fixing in this new building.
Is it a good idea to sell the fire station in the city?
We've talked about maybe reusing it, but how do I say to you guys, this current fire station is not good, we need to replace it, and then when you guys replace it, and you see fire trucks down there, who's going to not raise their hand and go, I thought you said that fire station wasn't good, that's why we built you a new one. Why are you guys still using that one? We think that the current station has outgrown our use as a fire department, and even if we put anything back down there, now we're not far enough away, we're back down at the bottom of the hill, and we're going to end up with other problems. It's not handicap accessible. We spend a lot of money in heating costs because it's an old building, and like I said, it was never designed for 24 hours a day coverage the way we currently do. We've made do with what we have, but it was never intended for that.
But how about for storage, like the trailers?
So if we can get the carports, we think we're going to be fine. And they're hoping to actually take some of the money that they use from the sale of it and help offset the current building. So if we can get the carports, that way we're only in one building. Right now, the other day, the town of Webster had a technical rescue call. So they activated us. I drove from the Heritage School. I was picking up my son. He's 10 years old. I drove from the Heritage School. I had to leave him. He can walk his way home. It's fine. We all had to walk up and down, right, both ways through snow when we were kids. So somebody else was going to bring my son home. So I had to drive from the Heritage School down to our fire headquarters. And I had to get one of our pieces of, one of our trucks that can tow the trailer. So I had to drive from headquarters up to Station 2. And I had to back into the trailer. I hooked it up, and then I had to start driving to there. About a 12-minute delay it took me to get underway to go to Webster for a technical rescue. I made it as far as Buffinville, and they canceled us. They said, you guys are all set. We got the person out anyway. So we don't want to have it where we got to go from one station to the other station to get a piece of apparatus. We'd rather have everything to be right on our piece of property. Sometimes you may see us come flying up through the Masonic home. We get into the center, we take a left, and we pull into that other station. You may be thinking, what are they doing? Why are they going to that other station? Well, because we had a dive call. We got a reported drowning, and all of our dive equipment is up there. Or we got a major accident up on the Mass Pike, and the town of Sturbridge is looking for our heavy rescue, so it's up there. So we put firefighters in the little SUVs, and we have to drive to the other station to get it. We don't want to do that anymore. We want to have all of our equipment at one station.
Is that going to be level with the road? Because it seems to me that's kind of a hill down.
Were you an engineer when you were younger? You're super smart. We were concerned about that. We didn't want to climb hills anymore, right? That was one of the biggest things. So, because of the topography, our fire truck coming out of here and coming to this road, it's at the same level. There's no hill.
That's good.
So then when he takes a left, he does have to climb from this part to this part. However, that is significantly different than climbing from the bottom of Masonic home, and we're willing to accept that. Small amount of climb. You guys are probably all hungry right now. I've taken it a little longer. I appreciate you guys letting me come in. I'd be more than happy to come in again. You can talk to Elaine if you want me to come back in again before May 20th and do it again.
Let's
So-
thank Captain Barton for his presentation. It was very good.
So on behalf of the Charlton Firefighters Union, which I'm the president of, the Charlton Police Officers Union, and the Charlton Firefighters Relief Association, we've sponsored the meal for you guys for allowing us to come in and give you this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.